Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you my steelhead rod and reel arsenal, or the rods that I'm using right now for steelhead. I do have some other ones that I kind of use every once in a while, kind of swap in some other brands and things, but these two that I'm going to show you are my main rods I'm using in the videos. I've had a couple people ask me in some of my steelhead videos what rods and reels they're using, so I'm going to show you the two that I've been using 90% of the time, and in most of my videos that's what I'm using. So I'll start off with the spinning rod. Now both these I use for bobber fishing. Both these rods that 90% of the time when I'm steelhead fishing, I'm bobber fishing. Sometimes I bring a rod to throw spinners or something with, but usually when I fish I don't have my driver's license right now, so usually I'm with somebody that takes me to the river and fishes with me, my dad or one of my friends, and usually they have a rod to throw spinners and stuff. Usually I just bobber fish and they will throw like spinners and different things, because I do totally agree that when you are fishing, steelhead fishing especially, you need to try you need to run through the baits and try everything. You need to try a spinner, you need to try plugs, you need to try, worms, jigs, all that stuff. And so, if I was going by myself, I would have another rod with me to throw spinners and things like that, to throw hardware, if you will. But for me, being with people that usually throw spinners, usually I just fish with my bobbers. So, my two bobber setups, the first one is a spinning rod. I prefer personally a bait casting rod when bobber fishing. I think I can control my line a lot better. I get a lot better hook sets. I'm not fiddling with a spinning reel. It's a lot easier just to put your thumb on the spool and set the hook, or flip it. I can use one hand to click it and set the hook. Versus a spinning reel, you get caught with the bail open, and your bail. You go to flip your bail, and your line gets all tangled up. I've had a lot of issues with spinning reels, but I do use them. So this is this rod. Start off with the rod, an Akuma Guide Select Pro. Both these rods are Akuma Guide Select Pro. I get these at a local fishing shop or a local store around here. I'm sure you can find them. You can probably find them at like a lot of your like big retailers. Your big fishing store around you, whatever you have, like a Sportsman's Warehouse or some kind of fisherman's store, whatever. But this one here is a Akuma Guide Select Pro. They're great rods. They've got a good warranty on them. Honestly, they're one of my favorite rods right now. This one here is a 10'6", 10'6" in length, 6 to 12 pound line, and it's rated. The lure rating is 3/16 to ½ ounce. And with this, I like to fish the 10'6". I like to fish the fixed floats a lot. This right here I think is an AF7 fixed float, and I like to use that with the longer rod because it's a lot easier to reach out there to mend it without moving the bobber. These fixed floats are a little bit harder to mend. They move around a lot more when you mend them, just because they don't have a big weight, like another bobber with a 3/8 ounce weight under it. When you mend, that weight kind of holds your bobber still a lot better. But these, there's no big heavy weight, so when you mend, it's a lot easier to mess up your bobber. So a longer rod helps me mend a little bit easier. It is kind of a pain when you're fishing, smaller creeks, to have a longer rod. But it's kind of good at the same time because you can pretty much reach across the creek, and your line, won't even be on the water affecting your drift. So anyway, that's the rod. That's what I use it for most of the time, is like fixed floats. Kind of switch it up depending on the rivers I'm fishing, what the water looks like, stuff like that. And then for this reel, this is just a pretty cheap reel. It's a Cast King Centron, size 3000. Gear ratio is 5:2 to 1. So another thing I don't like about spinning reels is they always have a slow gear ratio. Spinning reels, I don't really make them in like a 7:1 to 1 or 8:1 to 1, really fast gear ratios. Most of the time they're like this, like a 5:2 to 1, 5:6 to 1, maybe a 6:3 to 1. But most of the time they're slower, and I've gotten burned by some steelhead before using a slow reel. So again, that's another reason I prefer bait casting, but you can do whatever. For a beginner, spinning reel is probably the way to go. A lot easier to cast, no getting backlashes. Yeah, so that's the reel. It's pretty cheap. I think it's like 30 bucks. And then the line on here, I always use braided line. Now on this, because I have a fixed float, I'm running a leader on there, and that's 15-pound CX Premium, and it's not fluorocarbon. I don't necessarily like to run fluorocarbon on a fixed float because fluorocarbon sinks, and therefore it's harder to mend and it doesn't want to float. So I use a CX Premium. It's pretty good line. Now in crystal clear water, you might want to go to fluoro, but this stuff, it's pretty, you know, it's pretty invisible. You can't see it too much. It's a copolymer line, so it doesn't really like sink super bad, but it doesn't float the best. But it floats better than fluorocarbon. So yeah, that's what I got right there. The braid to that leader. That's, I think, 30-pound braid. So that's my first setup. If you have any questions, you know, anything else that I missed, you can comment down below and I'll try to answer them. The next one, again, like I said, Okuma Guide Select Pro. These are great rods. I love them. And then this is, the model here is, this is a 9'9", 6 to 12 pound test. So these are both 6 to 12 pound tests. They do make a little bit heavier ones, and these Guide Select Pro, they make different, you know, different line ratings. But I like these. The 6 to 12 works pretty good. If you're fishing a bigger river, more flow, you might want to bump it up to the next, which I think would be like 8 to 15 or something like that. But this is a 6 to 12 pound, and for most of my rivers that I fish, you know, they're not super big, and I can get away with using this. Or if I'm out of a boat as well, and I can, you know, chase the fish down out of my boat, which I use every once in a while. But most of the time I'm fishing smaller rivers with, you know, just bank fishing. But it's a 9'9", so it's a little bit shorter, but it's still long. You still, for a bobber rod, you still want, you know, a rod that's like 9 foot or more. I wouldn't really go under 9 foot. An 8'6", I've used them before. They work, but you know, the longer you go, the better, the easier it is going to be to mend. So 6 to 12 pound test, same as the other one. Lure rating 3/16 to ½ ounce. And with this one, again, I mix it up a lot. Sometimes I bobber dog with it, and sometimes I run a slip float. This is a slip float on here, 3/8 ounce, or actually that's a ½ ounce float, 3/8 ounce weight. With this, because the weight limit on here maxes out at a half, so I usually like to fish a 3/8 ounce on it. ½ ounce bobber with a 3/8 ounce weight, and that's just so I can add, you know, I can fish a jig or a worm. I can add a little bit more weight, more split shot, things like that, and it's not going to sink that bobber. That bobber still can float. So I use a 3/8 ounce weight, ½ ounce bobber there. On here, for the reel, this is the Shimano Curado I. I'd really like to get a K. Shimano Curado K would be sick with this rod. That's the newer Shimano, or sorry, newer Curado. But Shimano Curado, this is 7:2 to 1 gear ratio, so again, it's pretty fast, not super fast, they make them faster, but it's a decently fast gear ratio. Sometimes there's a train going by, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it's kind of annoying. And so I love this reel. Again, bait caster, I can really easily control it. You know, you can go like this, let line out, and then your bobber goes under, and it's super easy just to, you know, a lot of times I use one hand, and it's super easy just to be able to control. In my opinion, is what I like using. So anyway, Shimano Curado I. And then for the line on there, that's also braided line. This is actually high vis. I like the high vis because you can see it across the river, see where your line's at, and you know, you can make all the correct mends that you need to make, and it's easy to see. And then also when you have a fish on, you know right where your fish is at. You know, I've had times where I've had fish and running all over, and I've had mono or like, you know, the green braid on there, and you can't tell where the fish is at, you know, because you can't see that line. With this, you can see the line really good. You always know, you know, right where you're fishing, right where the fish is at when you're fighting him. So I like the high vis. And I usually black out a couple feet, depending on how clear the water is, but most of the time I black it out with a Sharpie. So I'm not running, you know, directly, you know, that bright yellow line directly to my bobber setup. I kind of run a Sharpie up a couple feet up my line, just so that fish, if he, you know, sees that line at all, it's blacked out and he doesn't see that bright line. Some people run leaders. I don't. I just run the straight braid to my setup, run the bobber on my braid. Some people run a little bumper on there. But for me, the more knots and things like that, the more chances, the more failures you can have. The more knots you tie, you know, those are more failing points. The places where, you know, you could have failure and you could be fighting a fish and they could fail. And so I limit that with least knots as I can, and braid. Braided line, as long as you have tie a good strong knot, it's not going to fail. You know, 30 or 40 pound braid with a good strong knot, it's not going to fail on you, unless you're like catching, you know, something else. But for steelhead, you know, most steelhead 6 to maybe 10, 12 pounds, you know, your average steelhead is gonna, you know, is not going to be able to break that braid. And then you have one knot, you know, that goes from your braid to your weight, or whatever, your braid to your swivel, and then you have one more knot that's your, you know, your leader. So you don't really have too many places where that can fail. That's why I like to run the braid with no bumper on it. But anyway, so here's my setups. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I probably talked about them, you know, longer than I should have, like I always do. I get real talkative when I'm talking to the camera, when I'm talking to you guys. But anyway, those are the setups I'm using 90% of the time. Like I said, I have a few other rods that I kind of shift in every once in a while, some Lamy glass stuff. But these rods right here have been the best rods. I wish they'd sponsor me. I'm not sponsored by them at all, but they're great rods. They have good warranty on them. To where if something happens to them, you know, you got a warranty. And I love fishing with them. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.